the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing. This is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report, where we count down the top 10 things this past week that made us go
wow.
That's right. I am Fender Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder, joined by my partners in crime, Chief Creative Officer Tom Campbell.
Happy December, Fenton.
Oh, yes. Festive greetings to you, too. And sitting on a Yule log, perhaps, our literary editor of the Wow Report, James A. James.
Wow!
How is your Yule log?
My log. You want to see my log, baby?
No.
Is that what we're doing now?
When you
just got back on CNN. Don't show us your log.
You are supposed to put the decorations up, right? Today, like they're supposed to be up. Have you? Tom, I don't see any Christmas decorations. No.
I do it all in New Hampshire when I visit my family.
You are going to have to stay tuned for our bar humbug show where we just bitch and complain about everything for a change, right?
So different from today's show.
Meanwhile, over here at Positivity Towers, it's number 10, Tom.
Number 10.
I warned you guys last week, and it's true. I went to New York for Thanksgiving. I was there from Monday to Saturday, and boy, did I get a lot done. And I want to tell you mostly about the theater that I experienced, because I was a little bit tentative, going to New York for the first time. Do I want to be in a theater? Well, they take everybody's vaccination card. There's like a COVID team outside before you even get to the theater. They look at your ID. They actually match the name. I'm sure somebody, if they're really stupid and clever, could forge it, but you feel good about it. You wear masks during the whole thing. One of the highlights of the week was seeing the matinee on Friday of Stephen Sondheim's Company.
Now, is Company the one with I'm Still Here, or is it the one with Ladies Who Lunch?
Ladies Who Lunch. Thank you for asking.
And is that the one with Being Alive?
And it ends with Being Alive. Very
okay.
good. You passed your gay card there.
Yeah, thank you.
And if I'm correct, he was still with us on the planet when you saw it.
It's we're going to talk about him later, but I got my tickets last minute. I am a whore, and I got a ticket in the front row. The
Wow.
stage was right here. I have the videotape of it. And I just want to say that he passed away that Friday morning. No one knew about it. I went to the matinee. Clearly, no one knew about it. Patti LuPone, who sings Ladies Who Lunch, sang it to me.
Wow!
I know this because during the standing ovation, where my head was in her crotch, she did her bows and she shot me a look at the end, kind of like, I see you, homosexual. I see you. It was wonderful. What's different about
everybody rose?
Everybody rise. What's special about this production, it's the one that came from the UK but was postponed because of COVID, is they did a bunch of gender reverse. The lead of the original Company, which I've never seen, is Bobby. And it's a guy turning 35, and it's all about whether he wants to be in relationships. And so he delves into the different relationships of his friends. And they have a woman play Bobby, and she's turning 35, which gives the whole fresh perspective. And, you can kind of root for a woman who's 35 and single and having trouble it sort of makes a much more modern take than a white guy. And there's a song also, I'm Not Getting Married. It's a very fast song. I'm not getting married, thing. And it was made famous by Beth Howland, who was one of the waitresses on Alice, the Ditzy Vera.
Vera. Uh-huh.
That's now played by a gay couple. And so it's an amazing turn. It's a standing ovation in the middle of the show. And all I could think of, as well as the artist who was doing it, was wonderful, was Beth Howland, who has left us, but how that was her moment in the sun in 1970.
That's funny because I have been seeing pictures of Beth Howland, of Vera with Elaine Stritch, and I've been trying to figure out where that was from.
Exactly it. And then they role reversed a couple. They kept a couple the same. It is... we'll talk more about Stephen Sondheim later. It is an amazing show. It is so worth seeing the way it's staged. And it's Stephen Sondheim, one of the many, many plays where you get to see him at his best, where I think it was very exploratory and only slightly successful in 1970 when it arrived. And now it's aged beautifully.
Interestingly, You never know what song is going to define your career when you die. It's just sort of like up to the world afterwards. And since Sondheim died, I have seen Being Alive 1,000 different times. It seems like that is one of the one takeaways from his career that is one of the high points. It's a
And
beautiful,
it's
beautiful
the conclusion.
song.
It's the last song. It's the final revelation of this single
I
person.
cry every single time I hear it.
Somebody loved me too much.
Yes.
Wow. All right. Well, we've posted links on the Wow Report for more information and tickets if you want to go see Company. I've never seen it, so I've heard. I know. This the whole episode is going to be an education for me.
Honey, we could do a whole series of things you've never seen that we introduce you to. I have a feeling that's our next rate podcast.
It's a bottomless pit, I'm telling you. All right, number 9, James.
Number 9.
Number 9, The Great is back on Hulu and season 2, and it is so great. It is just my favorite TV show on the planet. It is so the writing is so crisp, so perfect. Huzzah!
And this is the Catherine the Great.
It is. Nicholas Hoult plays Peter III. Elle Fanning plays Catherine the Great. This season, there has been a coup, and she has put him into house lockdown, house arrest. He is under house arrest while she has taken over the country. She is trying to reform Russia. She is trying to introduce new taxes in universities and getting girls to go to school and change, getting medical, changing mortality rates and building roads. And she's finding resistance along the way for everything, for a country that is mired in the past and refuses to sort of modernize. She is absolutely fantastic, but it's Nicholas Hoult who just is a revelation. He just holds the whole show together. He's like this entitled idiot man-child is sort of the character, and it could be on paper he could be so hateful and horrible, but you love him so much in the show. And I was going through his IMDb. His career, I don't know if you remember this, he was the boy in About a Boy when he was like 8 years old, and then he went on to Skins where he was Tony. He was in Warm Bodies, the zombie love story. I don't know if you remember that. He was in Mad Max Fury Road. He was so good in that. He was in X-Men. He's been in all the X-Men movies as Beast. And he was in Jack the Giant Killer, which almost killed his career. It was a real bomb. And then he came back with something else I can't remember. But he deserves all the awards. Fenton, what are you thinking? Have you watched?
How many episodes of this season have you seen?
I'm on 5 right now.
Oh, okay. Because me and Nolan sat down very excited to watch the first season. The first episode of the second season. And we laughed and we thought it was good, but it just felt like it hasn't really developed at all. And so we were a little bit like, a little bit let down feeling. I don't know. So I guess we have to plow on, right? Does it pick up?
Plow on. Yeah, it does. I mean, I think at this point, it's one of those things. I was sort of wondering too, where does it go? Because at a certain point, he's going to be dead and she's going to be old. And where do you? I mean, like, is it going to be like The Crown, where they just can put different actors in? Or
But the donkey. I mean, we've got to be around for her fucking the donkey, right?
Well, she keeps saying that everyone keeps. Well, that's the funny thing, because everyone has to give her tributes from around the country, and everyone keeps bringing her horses. And she finally opens up the door and screams to everyone, "I never fucked a horse!" Because everyone keeps saying, "We've brought you a Shetland pony because we know how much you love them," and she keeps getting madder and madder.
Supposedly, that was a rumor started by the people who replaced her, the regime that replaced her. Yeah. That was the way they would sabotage the history.
Well, I mean, it's a bit, you think about this throughout history. Mary Magdalene was not a whore. That was something that happened during the Middle Ages when they decided to besmirch her reputation. Clara Bow never fucked a football team. You know, I mean, like all throughout history, women have always been besmirched by men and then history just goes along with it.
Well, also these sexual myths, because they think Fatty Arbuckle and the champagne bottle. I don't think that's
Exactly,
true
that never
either.
happened either.
Right.
She was hemorrhaging from a botched abortion.
Right. She had that toxic shock. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and so I mean, but people are always trying to, you know, make women into whores.
They say a lie can go around the world before the truth can put on its pants or something, right?
there you go.
And you know, hundreds of years later, we're still talking about her fucking a horse. Poor thing, bless her heart.
I thought it was something to look forward to in the season. I was excited. Like
You were
You never know.
excited for the no, that's a porn. You can't do that.
no,
And if you've ever seen a porn with someone being fucked by a horse, I don't think you ever want to watch
Let's
it
hold
again.
on to our promise. Wow report, no bestiality, no cannibalism.
no cannibalism. Oh,
Okay.
Wish in one hand, shit in the other. See which comes up.
Okay. Well, The Great is streaming on Hulu. Tom, you've never seen it, have you?
I haven't. I need to.
Oh my
It is.
god.
It is. If did you watch? Did you see The Favorite in the theater? Did you watch that movie?
Yes.
Yes, it is the same writer, the same producer, the same.
Oh, is it? I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Because I
it's,
think
it's
this
the
is
same. It's the same team.
they love that kind of decadent, incestuous, hot house royal scenario stuff.
They do, but they also give it that modern twist where it's like nobody really spoke like that during the time. And so, I mean, like the dialogue is very modern.
All right. Well, let's
Anyway.
go on to number 8,
Number 8.
because it actually has a connection to number 9 and a connection to number 10. I went to see 6. 6. I was in New York too, Tom. I didn't know you were in New York. That
I didn't
Monday,
know you were in
Tuesday,
New York.
you missed 2 screenings of Wojnarowicz, Fuck You, Faggot Fucker. I was like, you could have come and seen it twice.
Oh, I would have loved to.
Yeah. Instead, on one of the nights, I went to see 6, which is this amazing. Well, first of all, they're saying it's the first new musical since COVID, because it was supposed to open when Broadway shut down. And it's the story. The 6 are the 6 wives of Henry VIII. Divorced,
fun.
beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded,
beheaded,
survived.
God.
And that's like the hook of the opening song. It's a musical, but it's not like a Broadway musical in the sense of a Broadway musical. The 6 wives, the 6 wives come on stage, and they have a backing band who are called, I think they're called the Ladies in Waiting, an all-girl backing band, and they are like a girl group of 6, and they are on tour, you're supposed to believe. And after they've done the opening number, they have a little chitty chat amongst themselves, and they decide they're going to compete to decide which of the 6 wives of Henry VIII is really the true star, and as such, the leader of the leader of the girl group, the 6. And so they each then do their individual numbers. So you can see.
Are they dressed in period pieces? Is that what it is?
They are fabulous. They have taken each of the 6 wives of Henry VIII, given them each their own story based on a nugget of the truth. Like, for example, Anne Boleyn's song is Sorry, Not Sorry. And Anne of Cleves, she's kind of like a Nicki Minaj character. My favorite, Anna of Cleves. She gets this fabulous Gaga-esque introduction at the House of Holbein, Haus, House of Holbein, because Henry VIII picked her by looking at Holbein portraits. He never met her. She was shipped off from Germany. She arrived, met Henry VIII, took one look at her, and he was like, ugh, he felt he'd been misled. And so you said that I had tricked you because I didn't look like my profile picture. And she is amazing. She like lives in a castle and has this fabulous life. She's like, I don't care if you don't like me, fine. And so all of the wives have their own different story. And what they have distilled the essence of pop music perfectly. So one of them, Catherine Howard, is like Ariana Grande. And one of them is like Beyonce. And all the songs that they sing are just sort of, they're not copies, but they're sort of the DNA of the songwriting is perfectly transcribed. And the lyrics are so witty.
I saw this in the UK, the first season of Drag Race UK.
Oh.
So it's come from Britain, as has Company. They're both playing there, so time's caught up with us. Because I like to make things about me when they're not about James. And that is, it's a Rusical. It's a RuPaul's Drag Race Rusical on Broadway. And it's like if the Spice Girls had all married Henry VIII. And then went on
brilliantly put. Did you love it, Tom?
I enjoyed it a lot. I went with my friend Johnny, who you met, who's a bit more traditionalist, and he thought it was awful. And I thought all I was thinking was like, we can make money. I was thinking, ka-ching, ka-ching. This is a Rusical. Like
it is a Rusical. And I will say this. I mean, bless them. Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss, they're both in their 20s. Makes you sick. They've got this huge international hit. I think they're like 27. They went to Cambridge. They they went to the Edinburgh Festival Fringe with this. I mean, it's a kind of like success out of the box that you dream of. And that, of course, there's going to be a movie. But I will say this, and this is said with love, because I'm hoping to meet them very soon. And Tom, you'll be in that meeting, I hope.
Good.
It owes a huge debt to Drag Race. A huge debt. In the best possible way. And they even talk about herstory, and they talk about Queenspiration. So, and I think what a great thing to do, to take a historical subject and drag it up and just put it in a sort of modern idiom. It's really great, James. You ever
see the herstory of the baddest bitches in herstory with Alaska playing Eve, who sounded just like Britney Spears? So I love it. I think
you should do your own 6 Wives of Henry VIII as a Drag Race challenge.
Yes, we're talking to Brett about bigger things. Bigger things.
Bigger.
We'll be coming to you soon.
All right. Okay. That was number 8. Yeah. 14 queens. We're going to take a break. 14 queens are competing for the title Queen of the Universe. Hosted by Graham Norton, streaming now on Paramount Plus. And if you want to wait a couple of months, it's coming to Wow Presents Plus. But for now, you have to get Paramount Plus. Yeah. Blake, do you have a question?
I do. You know how there's miles per hour and kilometers and all that stuff? Mm-hmm. What is measured in Mickeys? MICKEYs?
Mice!
We'll have the answer for you right after the break. You're listening to the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton Bailey here with Tom Campbell and James St. James and Blake. Yes, he does have a last name, Jacobs.
Yes, and I asked, this is a unit of measure, a Mickey, but what is measured in Mickeys?
I think it's alcohol because of a Mickey Thin.
Good guess.
I think it's wrenches.
A Mickey wrench?
A wrench? How many wrenches are in a Mickey?
What's your answer, James?
I got none. I mean, miles per kilometer.
You are Googling it as we speak.
I am not. How dare you?
James, I said wrench. There's nothing you could say that was stupider, and yet.
How dare all of you? That's it. I'm done.
Well, you should have kept your first answer, James, mice, because it's the speed of a computer mouse.
I'll be ding dong.
Mickey, you're so fine. You're so fine. You blow my mind. Hey, Mickey.
How fast can a computer mouse go?
300 miles an hour.
100 Mickeys?
300 Mickey.
I hope your other question is an empirical measurement one. All right, we're counting down top 10 things that made us go, wow. We've reached number 7, Tom.
Number 7.
All right, I'm going to fly through 3 more plays I saw because I was out of control. I saw the acclaimed The Lehman Trilogy.
That is 3 hours long.
It's 3 hours long. It gets a tiny. At the end, I was late to have dinner with my friend Johnny, so I was a little bit like, okay, wrap it up. But it's beautifully said. I believe Sam Mendes is the director. I have to look things up. It wouldn't be great if I did any research. I was in the second row. The set it starts off at 2008 with Lehman Brothers shutting down because of the crisis, and then it flashes back to the beginning. They started off as German immigrants, 3 brothers, one at a time, came through New York, and then went to Montgomery, Alabama, where they started their fortunes in a little cotton fabric store. Then the cotton fields burnt down, and they sold supplies to the plantations. This is all before the Civil War, and were able to get a piece of their crop. From that, they realized, oh my gosh, you can make money selling cotton to the industrialists in the North. So they became middlemen, and they got all of the plantations to give them their cotton for deals. And then they realized that it was about other markets, and they moved to New York, and it was about coffee and all these different markets. And then it became a bank. And then they helped create the stock market, which wasn't about actual commodities being with them. It was about the numbers of them. And then things got faster and faster and ended up with this consumerism and all, but it's brilliantly done. It's kind of like a really, really entertaining, poetically stated Wikipedia page. And
I don't think anything about this sounds interesting. I'm sorry.
I'm doing a terrible
3
job
hours
selling
of
it.
this. I'm bored after 3 minutes.
All right, good. So next, I went to see, in a very different vein, a matinee of Ain't Too Proud, The Story of the Temptations, which I knew would not be Shakespeare, but it did have beautiful, talented Broadway actors and actresses singing the hits of Motown, and it brought me great joy. Part of it too, and it was like a Wikipedia page. It was sort of like, and then Mr. Gordy told us we weren't going on stage. It was like, it's very like, just tell you some plot and then do a number. But I was fine with that. By the end, all of the Temptations who, died of this or died of that, this disease, only one is left, and everyone's sort of weeping, and they sing 3 great songs in a row, and you're really happy. It's a hit. Motown, for some reason, wasn't a hit. Ain't Too Proud to Beg is a hit. And I enjoyed it. And the audience was filled with young people, old people, Black people, white people, and that made me happy. Last but not least, Flying Over Sunset, a brand new musical that James LuPone at the Lincoln Center, that James LuPone, who's worked with Sondheim a lot on Sunday in the Park with George, who's up there. This seems like a very personal project that I'm not sure translated, but Claire Luce Booth, James knows who that is, experimented with LSD in the 50s. So did Cary Grant with his therapist. Yeah. So did, and I always mispronounce his first name, the author of Brave New World,
Aldous Huxley.
Thank you. They did not do it together. This musical, a musical on acid, literally, introduces all 3 of them in the first act, and then they decide at a fictional meeting at the Brown Derby that they'll all do it together in Babe's backyard. And so Claire Luce's backyard, and they do it, and it's maybe one acid trip too much, but it was exquisitely staged and acted. It was just pristine, but it didn't really move forward plot-wise very much. Flying Over Sunset, an acid trip, a music on acid.
Well, I suppose it shouldn't really move forward in a linear plot-like way, right? Because everybody's
right, but it, and again, I was in the second row.
Does the Cary Grant guy do a good Cary Grant? I mean,
it's Tony Yazbek, and he does not. He chooses not to do a dead-on Cary Grant impersonation, for better or worse. But there's a lot of tap dancing, and this man's thighs and buttocks are.
But doing Cary Grant is like low-hanging fruit. I mean, it's sort of an easy one to do. And if you do it bad, it reflects poorly on you.
Well, that's what my friend Johnny thought. Okay. I'll put it all in Johnny.
All right. Thank you for that Broadway roundup. Let's go on to number 6, James.
Number 6.
Well, this one is for you, Tom. This one is something that we need to talk about, and you need to get on board with, because it was a Rita Palooza last week. Rita Moreno. There was a documentary that came out on Netflix. She was on 60 Minutes, and West Side Story she's getting a lot of Oscar buzz for it. So she is back, baby. And I watched the documentary. I watched the 60 Minutes thing too, but the documentary is really fascinating because she's talking to the camera. It's basically her telling her story, and she's reflecting on 50 years in Hollywood, 50 years in show business, and she doesn't like looking back on it. There is very little in her career that she is proud of. She faced so much racism, early on those first 20 years in Hollywood, she was always playing in brown face. She was playing island girls. She was playing Native Americans. She was like anytime there was a role that was not Caucasian, she played Asian in
Yep.
The King
The
and
King
I.
and I,
You know,
yep.
and she's always in these little pigeon accents. Really, really, it's real reductive, real sad, and she's not proud of a lot of that work. And it isn't until West Side Story that she has something that she can be proud of. But
She won an Oscar
and
for
even
that.
and even after that, she was still back to doing crap movies, crap roles in crap movies. She also talks about how she was um the studio made her go out on studio dates, studio arranged dates, and she was sexually attacked. She was raped. She was violated. She didn't have the agency to say, you can't do this to me. She was a woman in Hollywood. So she looks back on it and she's pretty bitter about it. And it's very sad to hear her say how, you think that you needed all of that to get to where you are now. You need all of that before you can have, J Lo opening movies and things. It's just one of those things like, Hattie McDaniel. You had to get through Hattie McDaniel to get to Dorothy Dandridge or Eartha Kitt or Halle Berry or whoever. I mean, like it's small steps, but it's for her to go through it is very sad. She's very happy, then Oz comes along, revitalizes her career late in her career, and then now she's one day at a time. She's very happy there. She's very happy with West Side Story. So it ends up being happy, and she ends up wanting to tell girls to stand up for yourself and to always have agency and everything. It's just a fascinating documentary, and it's sad that someone
Yes.
who is so legendary can't look back on her career with pride.
Well, we throw around the words like pioneer and trailblazer,
Yes.
but you're reminded how much injury and
Yes.
trauma and
how
hurt
much trauma is on that trail
that goes with
Really?
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
God
yeah.
bless her.
So it's
I love her.
fascinating. And if you just want to watch the 60 Minutes thing, it sort of encapsulates
I will.
all of
I'll
that.
watch
Yeah.
both. I saw her at the Catalina Bar and Grill a couple years ago.
Yeah.
and she's what, 90? She's like
Yeah.
up there, right? I think she
Uh-huh.
had 60 years in show business. Not, I think she's been around forever.
Yeah, it was
but
1950, I believe, was her first movie.
but she's just amazing. And the thing about her, to be superficial, is she
Wait,
didn't
no, that's
age.
70 years. Hold on, that's 70. Yeah, 50.
Yes.
1950s. That's 70
Yeah.
years in showbiz.
There was some point in her career where I recognized in the 70s, and I became aware of her, that she just stopped aging. There was like 30 years where later, and
Around Electric Company.
Yes.
She's very proud of her Electric Company too.
hot body, great hair, beautiful face, and just looked that way for 30 years. She still looks good.
Yeah.
She still does not look 90, but she is an amazing, force of nature. I love her.
And it's funny because you see her still to this day. I don't think she gets the respect that she probably deserves, because she's going to events and she's doing her own makeup and she's picking out, buying outfits. Like you see her shopping, and like nobody is coming to her, styling her. It's very sad that she deserves more than she gets, I think. But she is a legend and we love her.
We love her.
And if she gets nominated, it will be the first time anyone has been nominated, I think, for the same role in a movie remake.
Oh.
No. I think for the same movie and in the movie and the remake.
Same movie. She's not Anita in this, I don't think.
Yeah. But Cate Blanchett, of course, won twice for playing Queen Elizabeth I.
Rita Moreno, Just a Girl Who Decided to Go for It, is streaming on Netflix.
It's great.
Number 5. Another play. It's all about Broadway.
Yes.
This was called Dana H. I have never seen anything like it in my life. Straightforward stage, like a sort of motel room in Florida, pastel colors, single chair in the middle, someone sitting on that chair. And before, there's a little kind of diatribe at the top that's on like a video screen where they basically say, this is a real life true story. And the actress, Deirdre O'Connell, is playing the part of Dana H., who so happens to be the playwright's mother. And it isn't really a play written in the traditional sense, in that it consists entirely of interviews with the playwright's mother, in which she tells the most harrowing, creepy, spooky, bizarre, true life story that happened to her. And
What happened?
she was an extraordinary character. She was one of those people who ministers to people at the end of their life, and would just literally just send hundreds of people on their way at a nursing home. And in the course of this, she came across this Hitler. No, what is the
Nazi,
what is the white power organization?
white supremacist.
Ku Klux
not,
Klan, the Proud Boys,
not the Proud Boys. Sorry, you're gonna have to.
Aryan Nation.
Yes, Aryan Brotherhood.
Yes.
He was a fugitive, as it were, from the Aryan Brotherhood. Terrible life. Ended up in a psych ward. She goes to help him. He gets released. He ends up breaking into her home. And there is the most harrowing 5 months that follows. I don't want to give it all away. But what's all that aside, the entire show is lip synced. The actress, Deirdre O'Connell, is lip syncing to these tapes of the playwright's mother telling this story. And you think, when they tell you this at the beginning, well, this isn't going to be so great. But oh my God, if ever anyone ever doubted the power of lip syncing to somehow elevate or transform something, go see this. Like 90 minutes, no intermission. Everyone was on the edge of their seat watching her tell this story. And you forget that she's lip syncing, And I just don't want to give away what happens in the story, but it's she made the mistake, I guess, of taking him home for Christmas when he was first released because he had nowhere to go. So then he knew where she lived. And it just descends into a maelstrom of just horror. And the extraordinary thing is...
Did you see that I was lip syncing to what Fenton was saying?
I wasn't feeling it. I think it's a little The extraordinary thing is that Lucas Hanaff, who's the playwright and whose mother is Dana Higginbotham, he never actually interviewed her about it. She finds this whole story so traumatic. She's never been able to speak to any of her family or loved ones. And in fact, after this whole thing went down and after it was all over, she kind of cut herself off from her entire family. And he sent a colleague in the theater world down to Florida to interview her. And that's what this play consists of, these cassette tapes of her telling her story. It's the most extraordinary thing. And what's amazing about it is it doesn't follow, I guess narrative generally sees, you got to have a redemptive arc and someone you're rooting for. And this doesn't follow any of those patterns. And
well, aren't you rooting for her to get away from him for after
absolutely
5 months?
You're rooting for her, but it isn't like yes, you're right, James, and you'd expect to after that to have a redemptive moment or some sort of stronger new
narcissism,
some sort of appreciation. It's none of that. Instead, she, like I say, separates herself completely from her family, and it's almost like she's holding this trauma herself. And maybe this was the way she released herself from it. I have to read more about, the genesis of it, how it came to be, but it's absolutely, was absolutely unbelievable.
Incredible. I want to see it.
Yes. Oh, and it wrapped production on November 28th. So you'll have to wait for the next production.
Okay.
By the way, The Bitch Who Stole Christmas, speaking of lip syncing, The Bitch Who Stole Christmas premiered last night on VH1. And it's one of, I think it's something like 145 Christmas movies this year. You don't need to watch any of the others, 144. You need to watch The Bitch Who Stole Christmas, starring, of course, RuPaul, who is amazing, and a zillion drag queens, and Krista Rodriguez, and
everybody you'd ever want to see on television.
Loads of people.
And I have to imagine, I don't know how this works, but it has to be on demand. It has to be on demand. So if you've missed it, just go, you still have cable, go on demand. Find it.
I'll tell you, it's coming to Wow Presents Plus in March. So just if you want to hold on.
Christmas came late this year.
Right.
I believe you can stream it on the VH1 with your cable subscription.
Thank you.
I have a question. Since this is our Broadway show, I guess, all about Broadway.
Don't sound too enthusiastic.
What is the longest running Broadway show ever?
All right, we'll be right back after the break. You're listening to the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James St. James and Tom Campbell and Blake.
Hi. I asked, what is the longest running Broadway show of all time?
Well, Tom, I know you know the answer, and I'm going to also ask you, though, isn't Mousetrap the longest running play? Didn't Mousetrap off Broadway for something like 50 years?
Actually, I think it's in the West End, James, and it's still running.
It's still going,
It's
right?
Been, it's been on my entire life. It's older than I am.
I think it used to be years. I'm guessing. I think it used to be My Fair Lady forever, but I think now it's Phantom of the Opera.
I'm gonna say Les Mis. Well, maybe okay. Phantom or Cats or Les Mis. I don't know.
Fenton,
guess.
Oh, my thing. I was going to do Mousetrap, but I realized it's West End.
It's the Phantom of the Opera. It opened January 26th, 1988. And there have been 13,408 performances.
And the chandelier has fallen that many times.
I think my mother saw 12,000 of those performances.
Oh.
My mom loved that show.
Oh my gosh. But we are having a bit of a Broadway binge, and we have reached number 4 of the things that made us go, wow. Tom.
Number 4.
I'm going to take you from Broadway to off Broadway, as in Brooklyn. On the last night I was there, Friday night, my friend Johnny caught a cold and did not go with me. And he goes, I really want you to see this thing called, and maybe you've heard of it, it's been around for a while, the Nutcracker Rouge, which is done at the XIV, like Roman numerals 14 theater in Brooklyn. Don't ask me where. I just spent a lot of money on Ubers to get there. And I thought, like, it's supposed to be like cabaret meets burlesque, which always, and then it sounds dirty because it's in Brooklyn. And those are my least favorite things in the world. And I was going because Johnny said, go, it'll be fun. And then he gets sick, and then I'm like, oh my God, do I have to go? And then his friend Jono, who's fantastic, and is a puppeteer, has worked with Basil Twist, all kind of stuff, and worked with Johnny. So I met him there. You're greeted. And this, I guess they have a theater there, and it's year round, and they do like 4 different shows, and this is the holiday show. And you're greeted by lots of men and women in like bejeweled G-strings, necklaces, high heels, beards, and faux fur coats, open, to reveal everything. And you talk to people, you think, well, this must be the sort of the wait staff, and I'm going to see different people on stage. They're one and the same. And we're in a little love seat. Everyone is there. It's, again, a very eclectic group of people. It's clearly famous. And bottom line, you know how like burlesque is supposed to be sexy, but never is? It's sexy. Without having to say it. And there are strippers who climb the walls with their big, strong legs. And there's this one guy, and I won't say his name, but he juggles and strips, and I fell in love with him. And they come in, in the aisle, there's aerial acts, all the things I think are usually just awful, and it works. And the opening number, it's very loosely based on the Nutcracker suite.
Is it the Nutcracker music?
Yes, but it'll be all done jazzy, and they play a lot of tracks, and it goes up and down. Again, there's never a redundant moment or a repetitive moment or a dull moment. Like, it really is well paced, and they have little breaks. And literally, the juggler who stripped is now selling you shots, which I don't indulge in, but it was like hilarious, in his green bejeweled thong. And it's all too delicious. And they're all such amazing bodies and dancers. But when they come at the beginning, they do sort of like, they're on toe, but because they have huge high heels on, and you realize there's little tutus, and that's when you first see it. Oh my God, there's lots of thongs. And then it's like men and women. And so it's like peekaboo male butt, peekaboo female butt. And suddenly you think like, I am polyamorous. I could do anybody here. It's just sexy in a way that's not it is in your face, not in a disgusting way. And they are wearing the proper, undergarments and things, but it's so sexy and so fun. And I was so afraid of it. And it was a blast. If you haven't heard of it, I guess it's been around forever, but it's Nutcracker Rouge in Brooklyn, Theater XIV, and run, don't walk. It's a hoot. And it's a place to go with friends. The bit next to me was like, I felt like the dad, his second wife, and their son, and everybody's having a great time.
It's running through January 30th, so there's plenty of time to go see it too.
Yeah, it's seasonal, but it's not so Christmassy. I would see it whenever you could. And I can't wait. I'm going to go back and see what they do the rest of the year.
And they're all strippy type shows, are they? All the rest of the year, it's like sexy stuff.
Sexy, but there's just stuff that blows your mind, and again, just super talented out there. It's felt like a new world in the best way. It felt very retro and cool and modern at the same time.
All right, number 3, James.
Number 3.
Well, I was gonna talk about the Omicron variant, which sounds like a Michael Crichton novel. It was terrifying. It's here, and I don't know if you saw this week. It landed in California.
Yes.
It is on our shores. But then I found something even more terrifying in the news. In the Telegraph, in the British tabloid Telegraph, they were talking about the world's first living robots have started to reproduce. They are self-replicating machines called Xenobots, which is even a scarier name than Omicron. The Xenobots are coming for you. They are microscopic animal-machine hybrids that scientists have put into petri dishes with the embryos from African clawed frogs. And the embryos, they scrape up all the I don't even know how to explain this. I don't even know, but somehow the machines, these Xenobots, are replicating. They are giving birth to baby bots, and the baby bots are supposedly scientists hope that someday that it will help to clear plaque from arteries, that these microscopic self-replicating things will clear, you'll send them into arteries and clear, and they will also be able to help remove toxic microplastic from the oceans, and they will help. But the thing is that they can also, if they can replicate, they can also repair themselves, and if they are damaged or torn. And I don't know that that's a road we want to go down, because that sounds like Terminator right there, where you blast them, you think you're killing them, and they just reproduce themselves and make themselves. So it all sounds very Terminator and scary and Skynet. And
it says here they can walk and swim, survive for weeks without food, and work together in groups.
Yeah. I'm telling you that if Omicron doesn't get us, the Xenobots will.
They sound like World of Wonder should hire them like that.
Right? Replace all of us.
I'm Vin Bailey, and welcome to the Wow Report with Xenobot 1 and Xenobot 2. All right. Oh, shit. That's scary, James. Number 2.
Number 2.
I saw a terrible movie, and I was going to save it for Bar Humbug, but it's too long to wait, and I'm just a volcano of malice about this whole
House
thing.
of Gaga?
No, I saw Spencer.
Oh.
What is that? The Princess Di movie.
Yes, with Kristen Stewart, who, I mean, it's, what do they call it? A fable from a true tragedy. So Lady Di goes off to spend the weekend at Sandringham.
How often do we need to hear this damn story about? I'm so tired of Lady Di, Princess Di.
And start off with she's driving herself alone, so that's a fable, because that wouldn't happen. And she gets lost, and she walks into a cafe and says, "Oh, I'm lost. I don't know where I am." Symbolic, right? She's lost. Doesn't know who she is.
She's lost the plot.
Things go from bad to worse. It's all about the food that they're having, because, of course, she had anorexia and a bulimia and eating disorder. And I tell you, I mean, a lot of it is true in the sense that, yes, it talks about her eating disorders, and it talks about her wanting to throw herself downstairs and cutting herself. But the problem is the royal family don't say anything ever. So you don't get a sense of like, unless you know already the story and how terribly treated she was,
Well,
you
who
get none of
doesn't
that.
know at this point, though?
Well, I know, and you get none of that in the movie. So she just seems very self-obsessed and very complainy, which I don't think is the intention of the filmmaker.
But I believe in real life that she probably was nasty and self-obsessed and needy.
A little bit.
But
I
but
think
my,
James-
hold on, but my point here is
Yes.
that right now we have CNN doing their series about it. We have Diana the musical. We have Spencer. It's this glut of just information that we've already had and already chewed over for 30 years now.
Well,
Mhm.
the robots are replicating themselves and they're making Princess Diana things. I've never been that compelled by her. The part that always makes me sad and made me sad was the picture of a beautiful mother who is taken from her children. That
Yes.
always like makes me cry now when I think about it. There's just something in me. But her shenanigans, her marrying, like I've never really been deeply into, and I get the symbolism of her and her beauty and what she and the AIDS
But
thing. I
she
get all that.
wasn't, she wasn't stylish. People say, "Oh, she was so stylish." She was as frumpy as Queen
Yeah.
Elizabeth and Princess I mean,
Well,
Princess
And she
Anne.
never said anything. She never said anything quotable. When she passed away, there was not one thing that she said that you could quote.
Well, I think that's very interesting, actually, and the interesting Kristen Stewart's performance isn't really that
But I was
Diana
gonna say,
specific.
people were saying that she's Oscar bound. Is she?
No,
Oscar
she's
bound?
not Oscar bound. She is not Oscar bound because it isn't really that accurate to Diana.
Well,
Number
yeah,
one,
but you're the
And she
guy who
actually-
says that Gaga's gonna win.
She
so.
delivers every single line in the same way. It's like she just spits out all they. It's like it was on and on. It's so repetitive. I tell you. My favorite bit was actually being in the kitchens and hearing the fabulous menus that they were having for Christmas meal, because the chef is counting them out as a counterpoint to her eating disorder. And they seemed quite delicious. And at one point when she is about to throw herself downstairs and you wish she would, she's the ghost of Anne Boleyn appears.
So we're tying it up with a bow, as we always do. What goes
I'm
around
so
comes
good at
around.
that. I know. All right. Okay, I'll wrap it up. Priscilla, Chiara, Tommaso are the judges of Drag Race Italia, streaming now on Wow Presents Plus worldwide. Watch it if you dare. It's really good. When we come back, we'll reveal the number one thing this week that made us go the most wow.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
And welcome back to the Wow Report. I am Fenton here with James and Tom and Blake. And we've been counting down the top 10 things that make us go wow. We've reached number one.
Number one.
And
Wait, hold on, Tom. Before we do, I want to say, before we get into our number one, that the fashion community lost two people this week that were giants in the industry. We lost Virgil Abloh from Louis Vuitton, who by all accounts was a genius and a revolutionary. We also lost a legendary legend, Adolfo, who was a society designer and Nancy Reagan's great go-to. And I would talk on and on about both of those, but we do need to get to the big one that we lost this week.
And again, no disrespect to those people, and may they rest in perfection. The big news that's touched so many people, it's big in the gay community, it's big in the theater community, it's big in the world, is the passing of Stephen Sondheim, who is being called the Shakespeare of Broadway, which isn't, when you start to read his accomplishments, we always knew them, but it's like, you talk about sort of threading into the fabric of life. He wrote the lyrics for West Side Story. He wrote the lyrics for Gypsy. He wrote, Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. And then all of his innovative plays, he never repeated himself. Company, I'm Still Here. Send in the Clowns is a song he wrote.
Little Night Music.
A Little Night Music, thank you. And just so prolific and, and so witty, and oftentimes criticized for being a little too acerbic. But again, seeing Company some 50 years after it was first staged and realizing that it still resonates so deeply, and it's such an emotional ride. He had seen Company, and there's another play of his that's out right now, which I forget at this moment. He'd seen both of them last week. He had Thanksgiving dinner, and I guess he passed rather suddenly on Friday, in his 90s. But and what's coming out, everybody has a story, which is very social media. But he was incredibly generous with his with other people and sharing his wisdom and encouraging people to move on. He was early encouraged by Oscar Hammerstein, and he sort of passed that on. And it's
I don't know if you've watched Tick Tick Boom yet, but it's on Netflix, and he is a character in that, and he was a great he encouraged Jonathan Larson to write Rent, and so you see his giving character and how he comes to the rehearsals, he offers and he by all accounts he did that with young playwrights and young composers. He was there for them. I just want to go through very quickly and say, Gypsy, Into the Woods, Sunday in the Park with George, Sweeney Todd, so many just greats, and he has very different periods in his work with different styles and different. Sometimes it's a little denser, and sometimes it's more hummable. And I saw on so many tributes from Bernadette Peters and Patti LuPone and Angela Lansbury, and so many people saying how he was always there for them, and he was so responsible for so many career making roles. And someone said that Rose's turn is for white people what and I'm telling you, I'm not going, is to black people. And someone tell me, when is it my turn? Don't I get a dream for myself? Yeah. And that's sort of
Merman. He's worked with everybody. So it's hard to say more than it's already been said. I'm kind of a lack for words, but it's harder to imagine someone who has had more of an impact, deep emotional impact on the pop culture than the Shakespeare of Broadway, Stephen Sondheim.
And what's interesting is he was 90 plus years old. How old was he? Something like that. And he was just as relevant this week as he's ever been in his life. With Tick Tick Boom coming out and people are sort of rediscovering who he was, Company opening, and West Side Story is opening this week as well. So he was having a moment at 91. And if you're going to go out on top when you are
in your 90s.
Yes, in your 90s, in your sleep, but when you are having a real moment in your career where everyone is, loving you, and that's the way to go out.
We've still got 30 plus years in us, guys. Come on, let's keep going.
Oh, God. Please no.
Rest in perfection, Stephen Sondheim. That's all we got time for this week. Thanks for tuning in to the Wow Report on Radio Andy. Previous episodes, you can get them on our YouTube channel, Wow Presents. And God willing, we'll see you same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go wow.
Wow.